Greetings, everyone. Dr. Annette West, Publishing Pusher here. Thanks for joining me in the JetName Publishing, talking all things books. Yes, the operative words, all things. I'm excited you're here. You listen in, share your thoughts. You don't have to be live on the screen to be able to talk. And I want you to know your success is my business. I'm here to assist you, support, empower, inspire as we pull out those thoughts to get these books accomplished. Thanks again for joining me. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are getting ready to get started. Melvise, were you able to hear the music? I don't think that it came through, did it?
The introduction, yes, I heard the introduction.
Oh, okay. Okay, my thing was saying it wasn't working. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you in the space. Nicole, good to see you in the space.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm going to share a little bit today, and please feel free to join in. This sharing won't take too long, but I wanted to share today on how to network effectively. Networking tends to be a major issue with some people. You know, some people will say, well, you know, I'm an introvert. It's hard for me to talk to people. If you want your product to be known, if you want people to know who you are, as my S3 model says, if you don't show up, people don't know you exist. If you don't speak out, people don't know what you have to say. And if you don't share it, people don't know what is in your toolbox. So you must show up, speak out, and share it. That's what networking is about. Connecting with other people who are in your like profession to gain perspective and to share who you are and what you do. Now we have this wonderful world of social media today. So we actually really don't have any excuses. We can get on different platforms like you are on here today. You can get on different platforms. You can participate actively. You can go to Twitter. You can go to Facebook. You can use LinkedIn. We are on Zoom, but there are so many different things. So join some groups that are focused on writing and self-publishing, because that's our emphasis: writing, self-publishing, and everything that goes along with it. That's why we call this space Talking All Things Books. Networking is a part of this. Some of the things that you need to have if you go to Twitter is you need to create some hashtags. You create some, but also know what hashtags to use when you're looking for something. If you probably put in hashtag writing community, if you put in hashtag am writing, I am writing, hashtag I want to write, hashtag self-publishing, you can find and connect with other writers. So many others. And guess what? You can create your own personalized hashtag as well. It might be, I'm sure Melvise's would be written word publishing, hashtag written word publishing. Mine would be hashtag publishing pusher, hashtag JetName publishing, hashtag Dr. Annette writes, hashtag Dr. Annette self-publishing. So, you know, you can create a lot. I think you can have up to 30, I believe. So you could create up to 30 hashtags that you can just copy into something when you are putting your information in places. Unless, of course, they only allow you to put one or two, but it's good to create different ones because you never know what people are looking for. On Facebook, there's a myriad there is a Christian writers publishing group. There is Black authors, Black women authors, Black self-publishers. You know, there's all kind of groups on Facebook that you can engage in. Now, every group is not going to be a best fit. You might go in, be a part of a group for a little while, engage, or follow it for a week or two. It might even be a day you see some stuff you're like, no, this is not for me. So I would say just because you joined a group doesn't mean you have to stay in that group. I get leery when I see people who want to reach out to me and be in my group, and I see that they're in 1,000 groups. I'm like, you cannot engage in 1,000. You can't even engage in 100 groups unless you got a team of people that's putting your content, you paying to put your content out for you. But on Facebook, you can also join. There's a group called 20 books to 50K, 20 books to 50K, self-publishing formula, self-publishing. So there's so many groups on Facebook that you can go in and share discussions and advice. Every group is not designed the same. There are some groups, there's a Christian writers group that I've been a part of for maybe about the last 5 years, and somehow they invited me to be a moderator in the group, and I accepted. But even though it says Christian writers, they don't want you posting Christian stuff. Like they don't want you to posting devotions in there because they don't want the group to get out of control. And they have very tight, stringent rules. And guess what? Whatever group you're in, you got to follow the rules. And that's their stuff. Well, I don't understand why I can't do this because I did it over here. Well, because that's just the makeup of that particular group. And everybody gets to decide what they want their flow to be. It's just like in your house, right? You just don't let people come in and do what they want to do. You establish the rules when somebody comes, or even maybe in advance of them coming. Most of the groups have rules that you agree upon when you put in your request to join the room. So social media engagement is very critical. Also, attend author events, go to book fairs, go to author signings, other people's author signings to see how they're doing things, and talk to them. I was just speaking to doing a podcast interview yesterday, and the young lady was telling me she met one of my authors in New York, and she said we didn't plan it. We just happened to be at this big event, and out of 50 tables, we just happened to sit at the same table beside each other. And I noticed that she has her books on the table and flyers. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And then she says, and then I told her I'm also an author. And then she says to me, oh, you need to meet Dr. Annette, and she has this and she has that. So this is how I got connected to this other person. So you never know. Melvise just posted a list of popular hashtags on TikTok. So, hey, copy these out, people, and use them. I used to have one called new book, hashtag new book release. And I would do that for my authors. Every time somebody was doing a new book, I would put out hashtag new book release. And then I would promote that particular author and their book. Thank you. Melvise is a wealth of resources. And, I'm the kind of person that I know what I do and I know what I do well, but I'm willing to shout out other people who do things well. And I have used Melvise to edit some books because, as I've told you all before, I can edit, but I'm not the editor. Okay. Like I know the things to look for and I can do that basic review, but I don't want to do the editing. I want to pay somebody also to do that. Nicole said ChatGPT is great with coming up with hashtags to help reach your target audience. Yes, people, ChatGPT is a valuable resource. We're not going there just taking stuff, okay? But hashtags, that's acceptable, okay? Now, don't go there and let them write your book for you, okay? No, you want to write your own book. You might go in there and say, okay, I'm going to write a book, and I want to write a novel, and I want it to have 25 chapters of this many pages. What would possibly be some subtitles that go with this title? And then you can get your list. And I've asked for 25 and then gone back and said, give me another 25. I might only be looking for 5. Okay, I might only be looking for 10, but I want to go through a long list. When I'm finished, I have 100 that I've gotten from hashtag that I can weed through and make my determination as to which ones I want to utilize, and then adjust them for my content. So I'm not going to use the titles the same way, but those titles are going to give me some thought, will provoke my thoughts, get my intellectual juices flowing. So go to book fairs, author signings, literary festivals, because there at these localities, you can meet other authors and industry professionals, because there may be some things that you don't even know that you could use that you may find out as you engage with other people, and what resources are out there that you can tap into from these other entities as well. The third thing would be join professional organizations, become a member of organizations like the Independent Book Publishers Association, IBPA. I am a member of that. So I got my little gold seal. There's also the Alliance of Independent Authors, ALLI. And when we say independent authors, we're talking about people that publish their own books, self-publishing, but we say independent. So when you hear indie authors, they're just independent authors. They're doing their own books, but they've come together as a group just to be able to feed off of one another. Networking people is what they're doing. So these organizations, as well as other organizations, offer resources, networking opportunities, workshops. They advocate for self-publishers. You may get insights about what their conferences are, when their conferences are, if they have scholarships for their conferences. So you can gain some great things by joining professional organizations. And within your own city or state, like in my own city, we don't have one, but in my state, about an hour away, we do have a publishing group, a publishing organization. I did sign up for it one time, but I didn't really see the value for myself. So after my membership ended after a year, I paid the $75 for the year membership, but I really wasn't seeing anything that drew me. And so after the 75, the year, I just canceled it. So you can do this, you can do the same thing, and the $75 is a tax write-off, so no big deal. You can also collaborate on projects. You can work with other authors, as I have done. I have collaborations. Some of you know I have a series of books called Centered in Christ. I've had varied authors to participate in those devotions. I probably have one, maybe 3 or 4 people that have been in each one of them. So some of my collaborators working with me now have 4 or 5 books, because they might have been in the anthology for the original Centered in Christ, and then maybe they were in the Marriage Connection anthology. So therefore, they may have at least 4 books with me. And then they can sell those books as their own, because they are co-authors in those projects. So co-author projects are very cost effective. For instance, if it costs you $2,400 to $3,600 to do your book and or to get your book done, but you can be a part of a collaboration where you only have to invest 4 to 6, then it's more cost effective, because now you have your content in a book as well as the content of others. And when you share your content, you get to share their content, because it's a part of the book. Now, you only have the copyright to your content, but you have access to the book. So if you would say doing a workshop or something, you could use any of the content in that workshop, as long as you didn't change those other authors' information that they shared. And you would give credit, because they are part of the collaboration. So anthologies, co-writing projects, cross promotions, there's a lot of things that we can do. And collaborations can expand your reach and introduce you to new audiences as well. The next thing you want to do is engage with readers. So you must learn how to build connection with your readers through email, newsletters, social media, book clubs. So you have to come up with some ways for people to know that you're here and this is what I have, and you can come and tap into this and be a part of this. Engaged readers can become your most loyal advocates. I do a Monday night book discussion. When we start, typically every season, on this book discussion, we have 12 to 15 people that join us on the first night or the second week. Then they just start dwindling to the wayside. But I have a cohesive 5 to 6 ladies that show up, that are faithful. You're not going to get everybody that connects with you to be faithful. But if you think about 5 or 6 out of 12 to 15, that's like a third of the people. That's pretty good. Typically, it's like 10%, if you can get 10%. And of course, the more people you have engaged in what you're doing, the greater the likelihood that you will have a good number of those people that will stay consistent with what they're doing. And we know that people have life and whatever, okay? I just know that when I commit to something, it's gonna take an illness for me to not commit to it, because that's just the way I am wired. But everybody's not wired that way, and people have different things going on. And this is what I found out. Even if you give people the book and they say they're going to come, doesn't mean that they're going to come. Just saying. So you just have to know your intent for what you are doing. I have a book club. We do a book discussion on Mondays. It doesn't matter if it's only 2 of us. It's never been just 2 of us. But even if it was just 2 of us, guess what? The Lord is there and in the midst. And we're doing what we studied to do and came in to do. I think one time 2 of the sisters were out of town. There were 3 of us. So we didn't even have book discussion. We did prayer the whole 45 minutes. Well, it's all good. The last thing is utilize networking platforms. Use professional networking platforms like LinkedIn. I'm not a huge fan of LinkedIn, even though I have a LinkedIn account. And I'm trying, y'all, but then I get active for a couple of weeks and then it's like I forget all about that it is there. So I personally have to do better. And I'm like, I'm not following hardly anybody, and I've got like about 4,000 people that are following me. And then I posted one human resource article some years back, and people are still looking at that article. I never did anymore because then I decided, oh, I might want to use that content for a book, but if I put it out here, then I can't use it for academia for a book. So I just stepped back from it. But you have on LinkedIn, you can connect with editors, cover designers, marketers, whatever you need to. And you want to build a professional network. Why? Because it can be invaluable. I'm not really engaged on LinkedIn. I mean, on LinkedIn, but I've had a few job offers through LinkedIn because somebody's looking at my resume. You know, somebody's looking at my past experiences. Somebody's trying to offer me a teaching position. I'm not looking for it, but it does feel nice to know that somebody's looking at your content. So everybody, that's what I'm going to share for today. So please feel free to add anything to what I've said, ask comments, ask questions, or give comments. I'll say the 6 areas again: how to network effectively. 1, social media engagement. 2, attend author events. 3, join professional organizations. 4, collaborate on projects. 5, engage with readers. And 6, utilize networking platforms. What say you, ladies?
So this is Malvise. I would just like to say, do not complain if you don't have any book sales or any book reviews, if you didn't take the time to engage in any networking.
You know, that's true. Somebody was going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to agree, Dr. Annette. I was going to agree with Melvise, and just have to show up, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Just show up. And if people don't know about your work, you have to let them know. And then if they are unable to support you, there's nothing wrong with asking them to share your information with their network. I think there's a lot of, leaning on people, please buy, but it's also about spreading the word and getting awareness. So even if someone can pass along information, it's almost like share a good word. It goes a long way.
That's good. So Nicole, the lady that I was interviewing on the podcast yesterday is in the Bronx. And
Oh,
I mentioned I mentioned your name to her. And here it is. Are you familiar with the Saratoga Book Festival?
it sounds very familiar. I follow a lot of book festivals, which is interesting. So I've probably come across
Okay, she
this
sent me a
festival.
link that
Mhm.
is this year.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking yesterday about different events, and she's thinking about doing something at some point. And I said, well, let me know because I've not made any commitments to anything thus far, as
Mhm.
far as festivals. I haven't set up any vending this year. I just haven't. So I still have resources to do that. And I was like, hey, I'll come to New York if it fits in my schedule. So let's talk about it.
Wow,
So
that sounds
I did,
wonderful.
yeah, I did mention your name last night, and
Mhm.
I was asking her, were there any live groups, meetups? And she said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, Nicole might know if there is. And she says, well, I'm a part of some um on Zoom and online things. She said, but I would love to do, some face-to-face meetup. So I was thinking, you're there, she's there, Miss Barbara's there. You all could start something new there.
Wow, that is, you know what, this is wonderful. And I just love coming to this group because it really is about connecting with like-minded people. Talk about finding your tribe. I just want to say thank you, Dr. Annette, because I've been exploring how do I take my meetup group from just being online to in person? What does that look like? And I would love to have something in person with people who are in the area. And the Bronx really isn't that far.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
thank you.
you're welcome. Her name is Omari Cannon, and she said she was going to try to get in today. She's been in a couple of times.
Mhm.
Um, and she's very much an entrepreneur, so she's always trying to do things. I'm very impressed. She published her book in February, and she is doing exceptionally well,
Very nice.
showing
I'm
up,
happy.
speaking out, and sharing her content. So I asked her last night, I said, hey, have you recouped everything you invested? She said, just about.
Beautiful.
That's the
Absolutely
first
beautiful.
thing. That's the first thing. If you spend $2,000 to get your book done, you got to recoup that 2,000 back before you can say you made a profit.
That's true.
And
That's
people
true.
are like, oh, I sold, I made. No, you didn't. You got to recoup. So you got to know what is it that I spent in totality for this project? How much profit will I get off of each book? And at what point will I get a profit? So when you're first selling books, you don't have any money to bank in your pocket when you really think about it,
Mhm.
because you're putting it back from where you got it from. But most people get the money and they just spend it.
That's true. That's true. And
And
I've
if
been there, so I can understand that. Yes.
so if we spent, I'm just saying, if we spent 2,000 and this was for our book, then we need to put that 2,000 back for our book, for the next project that we're going to do, or the workshop that we're going to do, or the conference that we're getting ready to go to. You see, those kind of things, we have to have resources set aside for those things.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Very, very important points. So thank you. And I will touch base with you offline on to see how I
Yeah,
can connect
yeah, I'll
with
probably send a
Amari.
email to the three of you
Yeah,
to
that would be
connect.
wonderful.
Yeah, to connect you. and then see where you can go from where, because even if you don't do a project together, guess what? You can still know where other things are happening and maybe connect to go to them. Because I think the Saratoga, whatever, is somewhere upstate. And she was like, it's a couple of hour drive or something, but maybe we could get together and we could go and we can, get our booths and set up and stuff. And I was like, that's that networking thing.
It is. It is. It's in Saratoga. Yes, yes, yes. This is wonderful.
So I'm going to check it out and see if it fits in my schedule. I mean, I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to bring as much stuff because I would be flying, but I could put enough in a carry-on bag, maybe
Mhm.
3 books and have 10 of each book. I'm just going to make my presence known.
Right. That's right. Showing up so people know who you
Mhm.
are.
Yep, that's it. Yep. And remember, Written Word Publishing, Melvise, has a calendar of upcoming literary events at writtenwordpublishing.com/events. So make sure you're grabbing this information from the chat. Anything else? So I've been away from my podcast for like 4 weeks. I didn't do another podcast till today. I posted one this morning. And, sometimes I talk about this stepping forward and stepping back. Sometimes you just have so much going on that you just must step back. And then sometimes you get that reignited flame in you to move forward. And I was kind of feeling kind of burnt out with the podcast. And I was like, well, I can't stop, but that's okay. I'll just take a little break and then I'll get back. And I've had so many people that were scheduling. And I mean, like literally in the last 20 minutes before the interview, they're sending me an email that they can't make it. I'm like, it is not possible for everybody to be waiting to the last minute, that there's really something major going on in their life, right? But sometimes it is. So I try not to think anything negative, and I just try to keep my own focus. But I was having people cancel and cancel and cancel. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about it. Dr. Coleman was in here. She said, don't worry about it. When you do it, you do it. So for a month, I didn't do it. And I went back and I saw that even though I didn't post, people were still listening. They were still listening to what's already there and going back and listening to prior podcasts, because I'm in season 5. The first 3 seasons were from Dr. Ness Speaks podcast. And I was going to start a totally new podcast, but I was encouraged, no, just start now and just with a new look and a new music in these clips, in these videos, and let people know this is a new season. We've revamped it. The prior content is still evergreen. It's still, I mean, I have been I've been doing a countdown, and I am already in season 3. I started with season 5, episode 7, because that's where I ended. And that was with Nicolette Hemingway. So I've been listening from there, and I'm already down to season 3, episode 17. So I am going backwards listening to all of my podcasts, and I have gotten some really good thoughts from those podcasts. So I'll be even adding other content and things to what I'm doing. So what I'm saying is, if it's evergreen, then we can always go back to it and utilize it again. Yesterday, I happened to listen to Sharon Shannon, the faith coach, the interview that she did with me back in season 3. I think it was episode 22 or something like that. And I was like, this is a really good interview. So what did I do? I went to her group yesterday and I posted the interview in there because I thought it would be beneficial for the Eagles to hear the conversation that she was having, and that what she's talking about now is stuff that she was talking about 5-6 years ago. Hey, Sharon Rand. So as long as we are putting out content that is evergreen, which means you can always go back to it, even when you have long gone and left this earth, other people will be going back to listen to your content, to read your books and say, wow, this is really good. This speaks to me. It will still be relevant. That's what you have to know. So I have a few new things that I'm going to start doing. And one of those things is I'm going to possibly next week start a Tuesday. It's going to be on Tuesdays. Or maybe it's going to be on Wednesday. Well, it's going to be on one of those 2 days, okay? And it's going to be called whatever date it is. It really won't matter, will it? Maybe I'll do it on Tuesday since this is on Thursday. So maybe I'll call it Tuesday's book publishing tip, something like that. Tip number 1, tip number 2, tip number 3. And I'll just take like 4 to 5 minutes to talk about something that aligns with publishing. And I'll post a new one every week. I'll post it on my LinkedIn, since I need to do more things on my LinkedIn. I'll post it on my publishing YouTube channel. I'll post it on my Jetnay Publishing Facebook group. Why? Because we need to keep putting our content out, because we never know who's going to show up and when they're going to show up. So the more platforms we put it on, the greater the likelihood that more people will be interested in what we have to share. Any thoughts?
I think that's a great idea. The more we see it, the more it stays out in front, and the more it gives us the direction that we should be going that particular time. The tips come in different forms, but sometimes they come in at the right time. So I could be working on something, and the tip that you give this week might be something that I can use to further what I'm doing and keep us motivated. We look forward to it, because I get lazy sometimes, or sometimes I get overwhelmed getting too much information. But if the right tip comes in, I can, slow it down. So I think that's a great idea.
And Sharon Rand here, she makes me so proud to see how she is so showing up, speaking out, and sharing it. Good stuff. Because if you're not putting anything out, how are people going to follow you? And every time we post something, if you were posting about your book and you were asking people to purchase your book on all of these platforms, you're not paying any money on these platforms. So only a minuscule amount of people on your sites are seeing them when you post it. So that means you have to post again, and you have to post again, and you have to post again. Now, you could post the same content 5 different ways. You could word it 5 different ways. You could change the picture 5 different ways, and it could still be the same content. But the more people see you, hear you, the more they will be, if they're interested, the greater the likelihood that they will invest in you. Why? If you're like me, I've seen something and I said, this looks interesting. And then I just went about my business. And then I saw it again and I was like, this looks interesting. And I still went about my business. And then I did this many times. And then eventually I decided, this looks interesting. And I actually clicked it to really start hearing what was being said. And I just been looking at the picture and I said, this is interesting with the words that was on it. Then I start listening to it. Then it was like, Then I was like, okay. Then maybe it might be the 8th, 9th, or 10th time. I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna get a copy of this. Because the only time that you can pretty much guarantee if you're gonna sell is when you're live with people. Why? Because on the spot, people are more apt to purchase that book and get your signature and have a little conversation with you. But when we're on these platforms, just like when we're watching television, if we watch television, you see commercials and you see it, but you don't pay any attention to it. And then you keep seeing that same thing. And then all of a sudden, subliminally, you're like, oh, I need to go to Amazon. I need to go to such and such to see if I can get that thing. That's how people are, and we are, when we're trying to do things and considering or not considering, but the content keeps coming our way. You ever saw something and you weren't considering it, but when you saw it, it drew you so hard till you went and you ordered it? So the more we show up, the more we talk about our content, and the more we share it, the greater the likelihood that we're going to make sales. I have a minimum goal when I go places, 10 books. That's my minimum goal. But then I also consider, okay, how much did I have to invest to be at this particular event? Then I say to myself, okay, maybe 20 would break you even, or 25 would break you even. So you have to think about things like that. If you only pay $50 to be a part of an event and you make $20 off of your books, basically 2.5 books per se, covered that. And then you have the difference. But then you could also say, well, I had to drive there and I have to drive back. So that the 10 books you sold, the 5 books you sold at $20 may cover your incidentals for that event. Anything above that would be your profit. That's the way you look at it. How's everybody's books coming?
Dr. Ned, I started on another one. Well, it's not another one. It's the one that my sisters have been trying to get me to start for them. And when I would look back over my messages between them, it wasn't that much content. So now I'm sending them a message every 2 or 3 days to send me your information. But what we're doing is the 3 of us, we're writing a book called The Daughters of Ruth. And I know there's several others I've heard on your podcast and different things that have the mother whose name's Ruth. And so we're doing the book of Ruth, each chapter, a devotion, prayer, and the scripture. And so that's what I'm working on now. And for the cover, we're using 3 black and white pictures of her and at different stages of her life for the cover. So that is what I'm trying to focus on now, to have that out sometime in August. A short book, a small book. And that's what I'm working on now. That's what I'm working on all this week. So we have the next 4 weeks to get that information together. So it's going to be a low volume book. So I don't think it would take that much for me to get it started in the KDP. So that's what I've been working on this week.
Sounds good.
Yep. And the devotional, the message from the preacher's wives, I'm still working on that, putting it together. That's going to be a little bigger. It'll be similar to my last book with the devotions, but I'm using all of the 30 Daughters devotionals that I've already written.
Yep.
And I'm just popping them in, and as they come, and I'm thinking that one, well, probably in the fall or early winter for that one to come out.
Nice.
I'm still working on those. So those 2 things, and I have a cover for the other devotional. But
Nice.
that's what I've been focusing on, and the things that I post lately have been some of those thoughts from writing these books, putting together these books and putting those things on it. And also the messages that we give out. Sometimes the tips and those little things mean a whole lot. Those 10 words on a line mean a whole lot. But that's what I'm working on in the 2 books so far.
Nice.
finally got myself together. After 90 days of retirement, I have created this big poster board of things I need to get done.
Okay.
So
Well,
I'm
listen, you're doing real good. You're doing real good.
and I have to post your podcast as well. And I think you sent me a picture already. Did you send me a picture in an email, right? Okay, so I'll have yours out in July. So I was trying to do one interview per month, and I have to get back into my podcast weekly. I did one yesterday, and try to get a focus on a theme
I
for
just told them I've
that.
been away for a month and I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't done a podcast till today. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
okay. People are
Yeah.
still listening. Even if you
Yeah.
don't post, they're still listening. They're still listening to your prior content. I just need people to
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to my Spotify. I already have
Mm-hmm.
almost 4,000 listens, but I need people
Mm-hmm.
to subscribe.
Yeah, I wonder why they do that. They'll subscribe, they'll listen, but they won't subscribe. The subscribing is not going to hurt anything unless you put where you have so many that you subscribe to that you're getting notifications all day. But you don't have to do that. And that same content can go in a book. People
Mhm,
who are doing those podcasts, those are paragraphs, pages in a book. So I'm
mhm.
still working on some things, trying to upgrade some of the things that I'm doing to get better quality out of it, better appearance. So, but I see the more I do it, the more I can see what's going on. Because at one time, I wouldn't even look at my stuff or read my stuff. I'll just, wait for feedback. But I'm learning now that I need to get feedback from myself as well, not criticize myself, but give myself some feedback. Hmm.
Yeah, it's not criticizing ourselves. We need to assess what we are doing as we want to stay on the right track. So that's a good thing to be able to look back at yourself and ask yourself some questions. Why did I write that? That don't really That's not really saying what I thought it was supposed to say, but we have to say those type of things to ourselves so that other people looking at it don't have to ask us those same questions, okay? So we can do a lot of the work ourselves if we pay attention. That's good. Anybody else want to share on their book before we get out of here, or how things are going?
Yeah, everything is going well, working on my manuscript. It's taking more time than I expected, but slow and steady, that's the name of the game. And so I'm working on my manuscript, and I've written a few poems and submitted them to a couple of publications. So I'm hoping to hear back in a couple of weeks. So that's a plus. And then I don't know if I told you I was accepted to Pacific University's Writers Conference. Maybe I mentioned that, but really excited about that. I'll be in Oregon in January.
Nice, nice.
Trying to stay busy, trying to stay consistent, putting a lot of energy into writing and connecting with the writing community. So it's been helpful.
Nice. That is nice. So did you get a scholarship for that, or did you have to pay outright for it?
I will have to pay outright, but I do have a substantial discount because I've participated consistently in their writers workshops. Pacific University offers what they call strata writing workshops to help you improve your craft, and it's specifically for BIPOC writers. So I've been consistently participating. So I receive a substantial discount. So it'll help, but I still have to pay out of pocket.
Okay. Well, that's why I talk about that budget. We have to make sure that
Ah,
we have a budget every year set aside. And guess
it's
what? You
true.
don't spend all your money in the budget this year. You just roll it over into the budget for the next year, and then you'll have more money that you can invest next year.
That's right. That's so true. The funny thing is it's important to have set your intention. Like, what is your goal for the year? Really important. Uh, so is that one or two conferences? Is that one retreat? What does that look like? And then what you want to take away? What's your takeaway? Why are you attending all of these events? Is
Right.
it just to attend, or what do you want to walk away with? What type of knowledge?
I think that's good because we can easily just be spending money and showing up. And then saying, what the world was I thinking about? This isn't even what I thought it was going to be, because you didn't really know, because you didn't really pay attention.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So
right.
that's good, Nicole. Well, y'all, we're at our time, and I don't want to hold anybody any longer. So I am going to go ahead and stop the recording.